For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Hello and welcome to my review of Transformers 1. The first, I'll put timestamp in the description. The first segment will be completely spoiler free, and then of course afterwards we're going to talk about the juicy details of the movie. So, starting off with no spoilers. This movie was awesome. It is pretty much basically anything a Transformers fan could want, because this movie, since it's animated, we don't have to worry about human characters. Thank God, because I love the live action movies, most of them anyway, and Sam, he always annoyed me. I mean, he's not as bad. I don't hate him as much, because now he's just kind of comedic relief, mainly because the one I rewatched the most is Dark of the Moon, which is where they really leaned into just go crazy with Shia LaBeouf's character. The love interests of the movie are never good, let's be honest. Michaela, I know a lot of people liked her. I never cared for her. Carly, slightly better. The Age of Extinction ones are okay. The Last Night ones are the same. Bumblebee, fantastic. Absolutely phenomenal protagonist. Then Rise of the Beast was kind of, Noah was good. He was better than most. But yeah, then we get to this movie, which is completely animated and there's no humans. The entire movie is set on Cybertron. It is so good to finally have that. And let's just start off with the actual movie itself. Is that the beginning part of the movie it's not really a lot of plot. It's more of just setting up little things that will pay off later in the movie. And it's setting up a lot of the characters, showing how most of them interact with one another. And really, it's just a lot of fun, because the first bit of the movie is very, I wouldn't say comedic, but the more mature things come later on in the movie. And you meet, of course, a lot of the characters, but really the two main ones that you're focusing on is Orion Pax and D16. And you could just see what a wonderful relationship those two characters have with each other. And then we meet some more of the side characters like RC, Bumblebee, or B-127, Badassatron. And then, of course, everything is kind of set into motion. As far as D16's actual character, because really that's the one everyone is interested to see. Because Orion becoming Optimus Prime, we can kind of predict that. He just shows the qualities of a leader and then becomes a Prime. That's not what happens, but with D16, they had to do it right, because him going from how he is in the beginning of the movie to Transformers Prime Megatron, basically, is something that doesn't even feel like they can do it properly. And this movie, without getting into details yet, it did it amazingly. It was fantastic. I loved what they did with the character of D16. The voice acting as well, I thought was great. Chris Hemsworth as Orion Pax, I thought was a good casting choice, because even though we live in an age where celebrity casting is getting more and more frequent, most recently with the Minecraft movie. I mean, who cast Jack Black as Steve?
I am inevitable.
I
am Steve.
But the one that I was kind of concerned about was Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron, because I can't look at that character, especially when the first trailer came out. I can't look at that character and go, that's Megatron, because I just hear Brian Tyree Henry's voice. I just go, oh, that's Bernie from Godzilla vs. Kong, or it's Miles' dad from Into the Spider-Verse. It doesn't sound like him. But in the actual movie, it sounds so much better. I think it was amazing. Do I think they could have gotten someone better? Yes. But that is just nitpicking. I think for Brian Tyree Henry, I think he did a fantastic job. And as of course, Scarlett Johansson, Keegan-Michael Key, they did great, I think. Even some of the side characters. But This movie just I can't really fault it in many aspects. I don't know how it's gonna hand up on rewatch, because there's again a lot of comedic moments in like the first half of the movie, and there's a few moments where it's just kind of awkward silence. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a while until I rewatch the movie. But yeah, I'm very excited to do that. But come on, the boring part is over. Let's get into spoilers. Whew, that was awesome. Okay, I never use vulgar language for Transformers, but with all the disrespect in the world, fuck you, Sentinel Prime. You are the worst character in these movies. And okay, hold on, wait. We just need to acknowledge what this dude did, because we all hated Sentinel Prime in Transformers Dark of the Moon. I say that. There is a giant figure of him behind the camera. And, actually, no, hold on. In Dark of the Moon, this dude killed Ironhide, and we were all pissed at him for so many years. The movie came out in 2011. I mean, I only watched it in 2014, but still, 13 years, this dude is one of the most hated faces in the Transformers franchise because he killed Ironhide. And oh my god, we were like, he's the worst villain. Well, I mean, he was the best villain, but he's the one that you like hating the most. This movie, I absolutely hated this dude. And the fact that they made Sentinel Prime the reason that Megatron turned evil was genius. I absolutely loved that. And I cannot believe what this guy did, because he killed all of the primes. He killed, oh my god, he killed all of them. And that's the insane thing, is that in Dark of the Moon, you can now look at that and go, you know what? His motivations are somewhat justifiable, because, you know, much like Megatron and Optimus Prime, they share a common goal. Well, actually, no, I wouldn't say Optimus is sharing the goal. He doesn't really want to restore Cybertron. He more or less just kind of wants to take advantage of the way things are now. But Sentinel Prime has good intentions, but has a horrendous way of going about it. He wants to restore his planet. That's respectful. But he wanted to kill all of the humans. Editing Chabet here. I have no clue what this guy is on, but Sentinel Prime did not want to kill the humans. He wanted them to be their slaves. What are you on about, man? In this movie, he killed all of the primes just so he could live like a king. And I'm pretty sure he used basically the exact same wording. He killed all the primes. He was gonna kill the elite guard, and just so that he can live like a king. And this guy, oh my god, he is horrible. He's the worst character. The only thing that I had spoiled for me, unfortunately, I'm gonna put this down, this dude is big. The only thing that I had spoiled was that he got split in half. I don't know how it was gonna happen, but I knew that he got split in half. And I'm just saying that is possibly, oh my god, that is probably one of, if not my favorite scenes of the movie. Not because he got killed, although that was part of the reason, but that's because that scene alone, there's no dialogue, nothing, no explosion noises, it's just the music, and you see what's happening. You know, the rage on Megatron's face, Sentinel getting ripped in half, the fear on all the other characters' faces, you know, Alita, Bumblebee, Starscream, all of them. And of course it, you know, cuts with Orion kind of floating down to the core of Cybertron. It's just an amazing sequence. It really, really is. And oh my god, it's brilliant. It really, really was. And this movie, I think, you know how good it was seeing Megatron on the big screen after 7 years. 7 years, nearly a decade since we last saw Megatron on the big screen. And it's probably going to be a decade until we see him again, because I think that this continuity, this Transformers 1 continuity, is the only way we're going to see Megatron, because we're not going to get him in live action, because Lorenzo is so hell-bent on connecting all the movies together. And in the first live action movie, Megatron crash landed on Earth and was there for I don't know how long. So that's the thing, is we're never going to see it in live action. So it was great seeing him here, and I cannot tell you how happy I got hearing Brian Tyree Henry say, "I am Megatron." It was so cool. It was awesome. It was amazing. And then of course that's intercut with Primus saying, "Arise, Optimus Prime," and just the music just vanished. You know, that like hopeful, tense music that was building up, and then just it cuts and you hear Optimus Prime, and then his eyes open. Oh my god, it was brilliant. It really, really was. But yeah, I think I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. We went straight to the final battle. But really, that's what you're going to end up talking about, right? Is the final battle. But talking about the movie before. So basically, Alita 1, Bumblebee, D16, and Orion, I'm just going to say Optimus and Megatron, they are miners. So they are obviously mining Energon because the Matrix of Leadership was quote-unquote lost. Of course, we learn at the end of the movie it was just in the core of Cybertron. And basically it has stopped like sustaining life, because this movie is very much like Transformers Prime. If you remember, at the end of that show, they went to Cybertron and Optimus ended up sacrificing himself. You know, he flew down to the core of Cybertron, and that ended up restoring the planet. And that's what I kind of got flashbacks to in this movie, when Optimus is falling down that hole going to the core. But again, getting ahead of myself. So they are mining the Energon, and Sentinel Prime is basically just giving these little Google Meet sessions and saying, "No, we never found the Matrix, guys. We never found it, but I'll try again." And then of course we learn, later on, that really what he has been doing during these trips to the surface is giving the Energon to the Quintessons so that he can basically sustain himself. And what I loved was them making such a big deal out of him bowing to the Quintessons, because that scene, when the scene actually happened, you have your main characters who are like, they just gasp and have the shocked look on their faces. Then when they replay the recording to the whole city, then you just see the impact that had on everyone else. They were like, oh, that fear, because obviously Sentinel Prime is like their hero, right? So of course seeing him bow to your worst enemy is of course gonna really rub them the wrong way, or really in this case the right way. So basically Optimus has this I forgot how he get. Oh yeah, it's on Steve, that's right, Bumblebee's fake friend Steve. Yeah, oh no, sorry, Bumblebee is not a minor. He's 18. No, he's not. What I mean is he's kind of in the sub-level 50, which isn't even marked anywhere on Cybertron, because according to everyone else, there's only 40 sub-levels. But Bumblebee is basically at the bottom, and he just kind of watches the trash go on the conveyor belt, from what I gathered, and. Yeah, that's basically how they meet, is Darkwing, who is a recurring nuisance throughout the movie, grabs D16 and Optimus and just kind of chuck them in there. And now, looking at it in hindsight, he actually indirectly saved their lives, because Sentinel Prime, before that, said, yo, you guys should come with me to my special place. And then obviously that now, I just clicked now, is that he was probably going to kill them. So... prop Darkwing, absolute legend. Well done, thank you Darkwing for saving Optimus Prime. Megatron, not so much. So yeah, they meet Bumblebee, and they find on one of his fake friends, who is just built out of scrap metal, the thingy-more, the device. And they meet Alpha Trion. Alpha Trion gives them the T-Cogs of the Primes, which I thought was fantastic. I really, really loved that. How they could, at that moment, I was like, are they gonna give Megatronus's T-Cog? But no, he didn't. And that I kind of liked, that they didn't show that he didn't have a T-Cog like Megatronus Prime. I love that they didn't show that. Until, later on we find out Sentinel took it. But that whole scene is really, in most movies when they have a scene like this, it's just kind of exposition dump. But here, I think it was used really well. It was really, really good how they had Alpha Trion use the hologram, explain what happened, Sentinel Prime betraying them, which is a sentence that I cannot believe I'm saying again, which in my lifetime. But yeah, that scene was just brilliant. The way that Alpha Trion kind of brings up the T-Cogs and then gives it to them. And that's where we learn arguably the worst thing that he did. Actually, killing the Primes is pretty bad. The worst thing Sentinel Prime did was, as like the newborn Cybertronians, he took their T-Cogs out so that they can mine the Energon. What the hell, man? Oh my god, this guy is the worst villain ever. And the thing is, this is the first time in this franchise where we have gotten a reoccurring villain. We have never had a Transformers movie share the same main antagonist. First movie it was Megatron, second movie it was The Fallen, third movie it was Sentinel Prime, then it was Lockdown, Quintessa, Shatter and Dropkick, Scourge. Now, Sentinel Prime is arguably the main antagonist. You could say Megatron, but no matter which way you look at it, it's still a reoccurring villain. And Sentinel Prime in this movie is just horrendous. Okay. I need to just calm down, because otherwise this entire video is just going to be me hating Sentinel Prime, which everyone can do that on their own time. And basically they go back to Iacon, they are on their way to go to Iacon City, where they meet the Elite Guard, I believe they are called, and the High Guard. The Elite Guard is a faction, the High Guard. And as soon as they woke up, I was like, oh my god, this is the scene. And then you see Shockwave, Soundwave, and Starscream. Starscream, of course, sitting on a throne, classic Screamer style, and you hear Steve Buscemi's voice. And I'm like, you know what? I can hear him as Starscream, but his voice is a little bit too normal. And then we get the amazing scene, which is more or less a follow-up to the scene with Alpha Trion, where Megatron just loses it with Optimus. That scene with Alpha Trion, Prime is like, do you not want that? Do you not want to see Sentinel brought to justice or whatever? And then Meg just turns around. He goes, no, I want to kill him. And then that's silence. The entire cinema was dead quiet. Even the little kid who was like in the same row, he shut up. When Megatron said, I want to kill him, no one was talking. Everyone just stopped what they were doing. And this scene was pretty much the same when Megatron just goes to leave when he's at the High Guard. And then he starts fighting Starscream. And we get probably one of my favorite things that happen in the movie is he's choking Starscream. And then you hear Starscream's voice kind of just become more rattly. And it's brilliant, because I was like, he did sound kind of human, just a human before. This is absolutely brilliant how they integrated bringing Starscream's voice into this movie. Because Starscream's always had that voice. Like, come here, boy. Lord Megatron. It's just brilliant how they took like a human voice and changed it. And of course, this is also the scene, this is like the fan service scene. It was brilliant, but it was a fan service. But it's when Megatron is holding his fist up to punch Screamer, and then the cannon comes out of his arm. Oh my god, I was so happy. I was clapping. It was so good, because you had two great iconic things from these characters happen in the same scene. Starscream gets his voice, and Megatron gets the cannon. Oh, it was so good. Then, later on we get a scene of something I never thought I'd ever see. Is when they're going to get Megatron and Bumblebee from Sentinel Prime, you get Elita 1 flying a ship, and next to her is Soundwave and Shockwave. Oh, I never thought I would ever in my life see a scene of Shockwave and Soundwave working with the Autobots. Dude, that's so cool. That's amazing. Oh, it was fantastic. And then we get the really cool sequence of RC fighting Arachnid. Arachnid in this movie is kind of just a sidekick, which, fair enough. Obviously, you're not going to get her as much as we did in Transformers Prime, where she's basically like a scavenger. Not really a scavenger, but like she just goes on her own and gets whatever scraps she can get her hands on and things like that. Here, she's basically Sentinel Prime's protector. And I loved what they did with like all her eyes and everything like that. And then that's how they basically say, you know, screw you to Sentinel Prime, is they take her eyes, like her memory and things, and they play that to Cybertron. And this is where we progressively get Megatron being more and more evil. And that's what I love throughout the movie is, and this has happened before with a previous villain, I'll get to that, is Megatron's eyes progressively changing color throughout the movie. The beginning, it's a lovely, happy yellow. Then throughout the middle segment, it sort of gets a little more orange, then really orange. Then, of course, you get the scene where he's holding Optimus, and then it just goes red. So it slowly gets more red throughout the movie. And we saw that in Dark of the Moon. It's not as clear, it's more subtle. But Sentinel Prime, in the beginning of the movie, obviously his eyes are beautiful, all spark blue. And then throughout the movie, they slowly get more and more purple. You can kind of see it in the scene where he says, "Decepticon ships, fire at Optimus!" You know, like when he lifts his head up. If you pause it there, you can see his eyes are more purple, which we did see in The Last Knight. When Optimus was evil, his eyes were purple. So that was really cool. I love how they kind of integrated that into Megatron's story. And then this is the scene which really is just horrific, because we saw in the trailers and things that Megatron had this like cut in Decepticon, well, it's not a Decepticon logo yet, but it's Megatronus Prime's face. And we were like, oh, that's cute, you know, he kind of carved it into his chest. It's the basic version before he gets the proper insignia. This freaking dude, Sentinel Prime, takes the sticker off of him, which Orion did give him at the beginning of the movie. He's like, oh, you know, it's Megatronus Prime's sticker. And that, I think, especially when you finish the movie, is just horrendous. Because, of course, we learn after their giant fight at the end of the movie how they met. It's because Megatron was putting up, like, a sticker of Megatronus Prime. And he's like, oh, the greatest Prime to ever live. And that's how they met. Sentinel Prime takes the sticker off and then takes, like, a, I don't know, what is that, a blowtorch? And then, like, carves it into Megatron's chest. I hate this guy. But really, this is just the kind of final straw for Megatron. He's basically gone now. Well, D16 is gone. Megatron, you can see, is beginning to kind of take over. And this is when Soundwave comes in. Soundwave is the MVP of the movie, by the way, because he just flies in and breaks all the handcuffs of the High Guard. And then we get the scene. The scene of Megatron just completely losing his shit with Sentinel Prime. He beats him and beats him, and then he can't fly anymore. And as he's about to kill him, Orion stops him and just, you know, he's like, don't end up like Sentinel Prime. And he says this throughout the movie. He's like, don't be like Sentinel. And then he said, you know, like, get out of my way or I'll make you. And then he punches him. And then the scene that I never thought I'd ever see again after Revenge of the Fallen is Megatron puts his cannon to Sentinel Prime to kill him, and Optimus jumps in the way. I can't believe this. Megatron killed Optimus Prime again. What the hell, guys? And you know, this is an interesting scene in the movie, because Orion almost falls down into the pit that goes to the core of Cybertron. D16 saves him, but then his eyes turn red, and he's like, I'm done saving you, and just lets him go. I couldn't believe it. I really could not believe it in the cinema, because I thought that he was actually going to end up pulling him up. I really thought he was going to help him. And then his eyes turned red, and I was like, well, it's over now. then arguably my favorite scene of the movie, which I did say earlier, is the cutting back and forth between Megatron and Optimus Prime. And when Sentinel Prime had them all captured and showed Megatron the T-Cog and was like, this is why I took Megatronus Prime's thing for myself, that's when it kind of came back to me. I was like, wait, I said this earlier. Is he really going to get Megatronus Prime's T-Cog? Because I was thinking of every way in my head. I was like, Optimus obviously gets the Matrix and becomes Optimus Prime. How is G16 going to become Megatron? Oh, that's why. That's how, I mean. Then, of course, it, as I said before, goes back and forth. You see Megatron kind of, getting the upgrades. His arm is getting fixed. He's getting a new cannon. His head is becoming more of that bucket shape. And then, of course, it cuts to Optimus Prime in the core, where he gets the Matrix. He becomes much larger. He gets the earpieces. His eyes open. Of course, he's brought back to life. And it was just an amazing sequence to witness. It truly, truly was. And it was fantastic. But really, the highlight of the scene was Megatron killing Sentinel Prime, which happened just before that. And yeah, I thought that was genius. I think that giving Megatron, Megatronus Prime's T-Cog, and that being how he becomes Megatron, was genius. It really, really was. Then we get the final battle, which, man, Transformers in animated form will never be forgotten, because obviously I love the live action movies, but you can't have the style like this in live action. Seeing Optimus, because there were many times throughout the battle where I was like, Optimus, your flamethrowers are not going to do anything against this dude's cannon. Okay, so you need something. And then I just saw this thing happening to his arm, and I'm like, what's happening? When that Energon axe came out, I lost it. I screamed. I was like, Energon axe! And I couldn't believe it. I can't believe I forgot that Optimus had the axe. And it was amazing. It really was. And the fighting in that scene was so good. It was brilliant to witness, and especially the way that it ends, of like Optimus kind of cutting Megatron's cannon in half, and it kind of ending on quote unquote peaceful terms, with Megatron just kind of being like, fine, but I'll be back, Prime. And that's just brilliant. I love Optimus like banishing Megatron, which never thought I'd ever see that in my life. Then, of course, whoever follows Megatron is going to be the Decepticons. And you can just see it's all the Seekers. All of the High Guard end up following Megs. And basically that is where the movie itself kind of tails off. Is that scene happens, then we get the Autobot, or Optimus, restoring life back to Cybertron. And everyone gets T-Cogs. So, of course, they are now all Transformers. And I love how they integrated that into the name Autobots. Like where at the end of the movie, now we truly all are Autobots. It was fantastic. And that's where the movie ends. That's where the main movie ends. Then there's a post-credit scene, which really is just a joke. Because, of course, earlier in the movie, we met Steve and Aatron. And, this is where Bumblebee accidentally kills them both with his sword hands. And yeah, but just quickly touching on Bumblebee, I thought that he was fairly funny in this movie. He basically is kind of like the Deadpool of this movie. He kind of reminds me of Martin Short's character, Oliver, from Only Murders in the Building, basically. That's what Bumblebee is. But then really, and we also get a little, like, in loving memory of the CEO of Hasbro, who unfortunately did pass away. Then we get the end credits scene, which I was waiting for this, because I feel like this is something they shouldn't have shown in the trailer, and it was a big part of the trailer, is, Brian Tyree Henry saying, Decepticons, rise up! Of course, that was the end credits scene, is Megatron basically stamping all of the Decepticons with the insignia. And I love how that's how they got their name, is they were like, we were deceived by Sentinel Prime, but we will never again, fall to this deception. We are Decepticons. It was fantastic. It really, really was. And I think that was a very good end credit scene, because of course the movie itself ended with the Autobots forming. Then the end of the movie ended with the Decepticons forming. So as far as negatives go, I feel like the first maybe third of the movie, I think could have been a little bit less comedic. But I mean, it's a kids movie. Well, it's supposed to be a kids movie. There are definitely things in here that are not for kids. But I think that the first little bit of the movie is a little bit slow. But of course, when you actually finish the movie, then you realize why it's like that. So actually, now thinking about it, I think it was perfectly fine. But again, I will have to rewatch this movie to give a completely fair opinion of. But as of right now, I think that this is the best movie of the year that I've seen anyway. Although the standard has been pretty low, because apart from this and Deadpool and Wolverine, everything has been either crap or just disappointing. So yeah, I really, in terms of negatives, I can't really give many to Transformers 1. I think that the movie was fantastic. I loved seeing Megatron on the big screen after nearly a decade. And I can only hope that as much... Obviously, I need these two back. Ryan Tyree Henry and Chris Hemsworth, I need them back for a sequel or something. Actually, a sequel really needed. But I would love just one more movie of Peter Cullen and Frank Welker together. I need that just one more time. Just one. That's all I want, is those two in a movie together. Whether it's animated, whether it's live action, I don't care. I just want them together again. Because this movie made me realize how much I missed Megatron. Because before watching Transformers Prime, I'll be honest, Megatron was my favorite Transformer. I was like, Megatron is just so cool. And even in TFP, he gets, because that was based purely on the live action movies. And yes, I know Megatron's been done dirty, yada yada yada, but I just like the bad guys, man. I just like the villains. And Megatron was awesome. But after watching Transformers Prime, I'm like, Megatron is still that cool. But I love Optimus Prime. So I think Optimus is my favorite. But yeah. This movie, I think the overall summary, the characterization of Optimus and Megatron, I thought were done fantastically. The progression of Megatron's character, I think, felt natural. It didn't really feel that forced. And the pacing was really good. At no point was I bored or felt like it was going too fast. I thought it was fantastic. And ultimately, unfortunately, I'm going to have to, whether I like it or not, I'm going to watch this exact same story again, because Mufasa the Lion King comes out at the end of this year. And yes, I'm going to watch it. And it's basically going to be the exact same story. Just replace Megatron with Scar, and replace Optimus with Mufasa. There you go. There's the movie.
Another thing that I failed to mention here is the scene when they actually show Orion and D16 meeting. That is probably the saddest scene of the entire movie. I was genuinely sitting there in the cinema with my eyes watering, because it was horrible, because of the point of the movie where they had it. They placed it just after Optimus Prime and Megatron had their giant battle, and we saw them meeting each other. My God, what a heartbreaking scene.
Please let me know your thoughts on Transformers 1. Do not hold back in the comments section. And yeah, just let me know what you thought of the movie. What would you have improved about it? And where would this Sentinel Prime land on the list of villains that you hate? Like, if you had to rank them in order of how much you hate them, where would the Sentinel Prime be? Because I'll be honest, he's definitely number one. He's the most, and I hate this dude. I absolutely hate him. He killed all the primes. He killed them. He killed all of them. I'm not getting over this. He killed all the primes. So that's why now, whenever I talk about this movie, I'm going to put Prime in quotation marks. Sentinel Prime. So yeah, please let me know your thoughts on the movie. And yeah, do you want a sequel? Which really is the important question. Do you want a sequel? But yeah, I think that about wraps everything up. So if you did enjoy this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.